So we named our book Extreme Ownership, and really that's an attitude that we took, a mentality that we had, and that was taking complete ownership of everything that was in our world that was affecting our operations while we were overseas. I think one of the best and worst examples of this was actually an operation that I was in charge of, and things went really, really bad, tragically bad. And when it was over, we began the debrief and try and figure out what happened and who made mistakes.
There was a bunch of guys on the battlefield, multiple different SEAL elements, operating with US Army elements, Iraqi Army elements. There was a whole lot of pieces and moving parts.
And eventually I realized and told everyone, hey, this is nobody's fault but mine. When things go wrong, you've got to take ownership of it.
That set an example for all of us. And for those guys that were on that particular operation, said, no, it wasn't your fault, that was my fault. I'm taking ownership of my little piece of it. So that was a culture that was built into our task unit. That set the example and the attitude that we exhibited, and it was a critical thing for our entire deployment that certainly led to our success. Oftentimes, when we work with different companies in the business world, there are leaders who they don't want to take ownership of stuff because they think somehow it's going to make them look weaker, or that people won't have respect for them if they say, hey, I made a mistake. But everybody makes mistakes. Nobody is infallible, no matter how experienced, how competent you are as a leader. When you take ownership and you stand up in front of your team and say, we did not do what we needed to do, or we failed our mission here, or we had this major incident happen, and guess whose fault that is? That's my fault. Everybody in the organization gains respect for that leader because he can admit those mistakes. And that's critical, because then, instead of a culture of excuse making and blaming others, you actually acknowledge and own those mistakes so that you can come up with a solution to overcome them and win.